Live video, and we're live.
We're live. I don't know which direction we're facing. Keeler Gardens on the north side of Chicago. We're live, but we're actually live.
In front of a live studio audience. More than 6 feet away from us.
So this is one of the points that we were trying to make previously. This is a public sidewalk. This is Keeler Gardens Pollinator habitat on a public sidewalk. Anybody can walk by and enjoy the space at any time. It is perfectly acceptable. You don't have to worry about any rules or mandates right now. It's perfectly acceptable. Just acknowledge your social distancing. So we realized, as it was suggested to us on a previous occasion, that we have a lot of visitors to Keeler Gardens, both live and via video, that don't really know what a pollinator habitat actually is.
And we talk about it all the time.
All the time. So let's start with, who knows what a pollinator is? Raise your hand. Okay, so for those who don't know, pollinators are any animal or entity or action that creates pollination, that gets pollen from where it's made to where it belongs. We'll get into the boy and girl parts later.
Yeah.
But the point is that that's what pollination is. Now, it's no guarantee that we're going to create seeds and fruit, but we need it to create seeds and fruit, okay? So, pollinators are those native animals that belong here. For us, it's Illinois, but for you, it might be whatever state or whatever country you're in, your native inhabitants, okay? That's who we're trying to provide a habitat for. So think about what a habitat is. What does it
Well,
mean?
can we go back to those pollinators? So what are some common pollinators we see here in the pollinator habitat?
Here are bees, birds, butterflies, dragonflies, beetles, regular flies, and the like.
Okay. Not just the pretty ones. All of those need help with pollination. But we like talking and taking pictures of the butterflies.
We love the butterflies.
Yes.
So, now you know what a pollinator is. Let's talk about what a habitat is.
Okay.
A habitat is where you live. It's your home, basically. That's our home. So what do we have there? We have shelter.
Uh-huh.
We have food and water.
Yep.
We have a place where we can have our family. And that's what this habitat does for the pollinators. Bye, live audience. See you soon. So for those of you who have walked by, have enjoyed the garden for its beauty, the scent, everything going on, know that this is a home to all those pollinators, okay? Now, this early on in the season, in this beautiful spring with all these bulbs, most of these bulbs are not what we call native. They aren't originally from Illinois, yet they still provide a very early pollen source for our pollinators. But the low stuff, the green stuff down here, okay, these guys, these are those natives, or the what's the word I'm looking for? They're target value plants, okay? So this, for example, is catmint. This isn't necessarily native, this version isn't necessarily native, but it is a target because the bees love it, okay? That one over there, I believe, and forgive me, I'm not as great with ID on the leaves, that's penstemon. That is a native.
But we're not necessarily focusing on that as much as what does this
focusing
provide
on
for the
is
habitat?
The nature of the habitat. So, you want food. So, in all different stages of growth, you know, like baby insects versus full grown, they need different food, nectar and foliage. So we have in here nectar and foliage. And we actually have a sign over there that says it, varied nectar and foliage. So they have something to eat. We also want them to have water. Now, one way we can do water is filtered, and one way, I'm going to ask Ed to move a little because we do have other people walking down the sidewalk.
Here, we can go this way and find some water.
So water can be done in a couple different ways. Moisture is water. So very, very small insects drink water that we can't see in little droplets. So if you have moisture, moist pots, moist soil, your bees and your other insects will literally drink it out of the soil.
So like yesterday in the rain, there's some broken pots underneath that No, that's
this is diarrhea. This is diarrhea.
Yeah.
So yes, there might be some puddles, and I don't know if can you get in any closer? There's some tiny little bugs in here. They might be sipping up little driplets of water. If it's too hard to see, it's okay.
Okay.
So the point is that moisture is water. Now, we also have standing water in two different forms. We have standing water that's like this with rocks in it. So your butterflies, your bees can stand on that rock and dip their tongues into that tasty water without drowning. big water baths, bird baths, are great for birds to jump in, but smaller insects can't use that water as easily. They need something to stand on. So we have both. We have shallow with rocks, and we have bird baths. And although we keep the water relatively clean, we do allow it to have some natural parts and pieces, a little bit of dirt, a little bit of that, because the pollinators drinking from that benefit from that a little extra something in their water. So we've talked about the food, nectar and foliage. I've talked about the water, and now this is shelter and a place to raise young. So notice the rocks, how we've set these boulders up at angles and in chunks. Stuff is living in there. It's where they're finding a home. It's where they're laying their eggs, or where they're going from one life cycle to the next. We actually caught a cicada emerging from its shell, and it was this, like, I don't know, raisiny looking thing.
Pictures, I think.
We do have a
previous
picture.
posts.
And it ended up, its shell fell to the ground, and it ended up on one of the rocks, the warm rocks, and we watched it over the course of an hour, of its wings going from these crinkled little things like this, and if just opening up into these beautiful iridescent works of art. So everything's living in here.
Rocks aren't the only thing. I think I'm trying to see if there's one close by of one of the insect hotels. Some
right,
volunteers
and so
have
the
actually
other thing
built.
that we've done with insect hotels is we've done them naturally, and we've done them, we've made them. So this is a version of an insect hotel here.
This is a little bit more
So
natural.
what this originally was we had written the name. Look at all this stuff growing in there. We'd written the name of a plant on there, and it got tipped over, and everything just grew underneath it. You know, all this stuff. So now we leave it, and we leave it as a home for them. We can rewrite that on another piece of wood. And then insect hotels are intentional collections of pieces that provide holes and hollows for the different pollinators to crawl in and make a home and make a place for their young. So, for those of you who are not familiar with the fact that this is a native Illinois pollinator habitat, once the spring and summer perennials come up, what we'll be seeing is it's about 90% of these plants are native to Illinois. They've always been here, they always will be. And so they feed the pollinators that have always been here and hopefully always will be. That's the nature of what our pollinator habitat is all about.
And it was all from a grant.
We won a grant from the Illinois Clean Energy Community Foundation, which we are trying to see if we can recreate that at another location to have more pollinator spaces in the garden. And we're going to come this way again to allow for some guests walking by.
Okay.
So, for those who are familiar with pollinator habitats, you can walk by here knowing that this is a true habitat, native plants. For those of you who are new to the concept and want more information, as you're walking by, take a look at some of these wonderfully designed informational boulders, water and shelter for wildlife, nectar and foliage for the wildlife. And I think there's
It's
one
over on
more.
the other one's over here.
There's one more on this side that says native plants, and then the far one all the way on the other side
Let's wind up down there so we can see the
talks
whole.
about how native plants need less water, they need less time for maintenance, and they also don't need as many additions. For example, pollutants that would be like, let's say, chemicals that we would use to kill weeds, but also pollutants, for example, like gasoline that we use to mow lawns with lawnmowers. So we're not criticizing anyone, we're just offering up some benefits. And then the last thing we want to mention is that one of our viewers asked if we might create some video of pollinator habitat to assist in one of the programs that Ed wanted to start up called the Sit Spot. If you look back a couple days, you'll see that we talked about what is called a Sit Spot. It's a place you pick, same place, every day, every time of day and year round, where you might use to meditate, to sit, to enjoy, to journal, to just experience. It can be inside, it can be outside, it can be anything, anywhere. And what we're going to do is we're going to set the camera up in the same place at the pollinator habitat on a regular basis and provide you with 10 to 15 minute little views of that space. We did one today of the pollinator habitat. We'll see how it goes.
Hi, Maggie.
Hi, Maggie. We'll be posting those to YouTube, and then you'll be able to see how plants change, how they get taller, how they grow, how things die off, and then you'll get to see the life of the pollinators coming and going. And Ed's laughing. Did somebody make a
Oh, she just said hi, Gina.
Oh, So we probably won't do a daily feed of that on YouTube. It'll probably be once or twice a week.
I'll make it a playlist.
And it'll be called the Pollinator Habitat Sit Spot playlist. So you'll have the same view every week or every few days, and you'll see how things change, and you'll have some knowledge and some idea of what this pollinator habitat is doing. We've had some people in neighboring areas question the idea of, should we build up on our parkway? Please. If you need help, let us help.
I'm gonna just do a quick turn so you can get a general idea, especially for those that aren't in Chicago, of here is what the parkway looks going down the street.
If we had meadow, woodland, prairie land, even some food growing on every one of these parkways, how extraordinary would that be? If there's a block that wants to do that, if there's a neighborhood that wants to do that, and we want to talk about how to create that, we have the whole process. We've done it. And it's really simple, step by step. Don't get me wrong, it's work. And there's some maintenance. You've got to, pay attention to what you want and what you don't want in the space. But once you have sort of an outline and we have context for plants, or we can share, please, let's consider it. If we can go in either direction and just create whole corridors of plants and pollinator habitats and edibles and spaces and nature spaces and places for people to sit
And
and
I'm going to
enjoy.
put one last fact out there before we wind up, is how many football fields of flowers.
So we have 2 beehives in the back, and we had asked our beekeeper if maybe we could have a 3rd, and he was concerned because he felt that, well, every hive, every substantial hive has something like 50 to 100,000 bees in it, and those bees need pollen and nectar to survive and to make honey. And how much do they need? They need a football field of flowers. So think about
Per hive, right?
Per hive. So think about how many flowers we have in a neighborhood. What's actually blooming? What's actually producing valuable nectar and pollen? And think about all the green grass we have and how that doesn't really produce that. I'm not criticizing green grass. I'm saying that for bees to be thriving, they need
More flowers.
that food and nectar, that pollen and nectar.
Yep.
So the more we create, the more hives we can have, the more honey we can have, the more spaces like this that we have, the more we can use our chicken coop waste maybe, or our goat waste as fertilizer. We can create sort of a sense of permaculture and keep everything connected and rebuilding. I'm going to wrap it up with a thank you for everyone. I hope you enjoyed this bit of information on our pollinator habitat. Please, any questions or comments, anything that I said that confused you, or you're like, really, is that true? Please leave a comment, we'll talk about it. Everything we do here is experimental. Everything we do here is just by our experience. Nothing is ever set in stone with a live, a living.
Hello, Shelley.
Hey,
Are you green lawn shaming us? Maggie wants to know.
No, not at all. Especially for those who have stuff in their lawns. Like, look over there. Look at the little bits and pieces. That's perfectly fine. Who cares? That's food for pollinators. All right. Clover is great in lawns. Mow it over. Who cares? All we're saying is that if you wanted to, we could walk you through how to make a difference. And this is a lot of work. It doesn't have to be this complicated. It could be 6 different plants that are easy to manage. I'm talking too much. We're going to go with Keeler Gardens, north side of Chicago. We are a nonprofit here to connect you with nature. If you're interested in what we're doing here and you want to work with us in other ways, let us know. If you know of a group that might want to sponsor, for example, this daffodil display is sponsored by Lurvy Garden Center, because Lurvy Garden Center is the one that provided virtually all of these daffodils. So if you want to work with us in any way, we can use sponsors, we can use funding, we can use volunteers. We want just this to share. We can use viewers. View it.
So people should share, follow.
Follow, get notifications. We love that we see the same people over and over again. We love answering your questions. We want to have you come walk by and see the space. Shelley, I know that might be difficult for you because she's in the UK.
Ah.
So,
Are you UK shaming her?
No, I'm not.
No.
If it's that Shelley, I don't know.
Yeah.
So my point is, thank you. Join us. Be with us.
See what she did there?
Travel
Be with
wonderful
us.
process. What'd you just say?
I saw what you did there. Be with us.
Be with us. All right. So
All
if
right.
you can answer any questions on any of the programs we're working on, please let us know.
And no dinosaurs today.
No dinosaurs.
We'll keep our eyes open though.
Okay. Thank you so much, everyone.